Let's end the episode with Florida State. Man, justice for Mike Norvell and the troops down there in Tallahassee. They were absolutely shellacked by the playoff committee. I will continue to bang that drum, but another chance here to make the playoff in 2024. It's a very interesting start to the season. They played Georgia Tech on the road in Dublin, Ireland, before Boston College. Then they've got Memphis on the schedule as well, which is one of the favorites to make the playoff as that G5 conference champion. SMU, Clemson, Miami, North Carolina, Notre Dame, all on the schedule before Florida. The path to the playoffs certainly seems wide open because I don't know that we expect one team to dominate the ACC this year. I think in a lot of minds, uh, Florida State and Clemson, that game may determine one of those spots in Charlotte for the conference championship, if not just a rematch entirely. But the over under for them is one back. Is that correct? Is it 9.5?
9.5. Clemson is actually at 9.5 right now as well. So,
Okay.
But they are dead even both ways, over and under -110.
See, I feel like I'm more confident, even though Florida State has the objectively more difficult schedule. I feel like I'm more confident in Florida State replacing the quarterback, replacing all of that production than I am Clemson just building a program the traditional way. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe
Does Florida State have the more difficult schedule in your mind?
I think so. They've
There's
got
no
Memphis.
Georgia. There's no road trip to a team the caliber of Florida State on Florida State's schedule. Like Clemson has to go to Florida State. I know they have at Miami, at Notre Dame, at SMU. That's a tricky 3-pack, but
yeah, I think it's I don't think it's like so Georgia's no doubt the most difficult game on either schedule, right? That's we're already chalking that up as a loss. For Clemson, I just look at potential landmines. I think there are more potential landmines on the Noles schedule than I think there are on Clemson. Like, listen, weird things happen in the kickoff game over in Dublin, right? That should be a comfortable win for Florida State. It really should. I think they're going to be able to get to Haynes King, very turnover-prone quarterback for all of his, flash and sizzle and leading them to six wins and a bowl victory last year as well. But that's there are just more landmines on this schedule. Memphis is going to be really good. SMU, I'm seeing projections that SMU goes 10-2, 11-1. There are a lot of folks very high on the ponies this year. We've got the Clemson game, Miami, North Carolina at Notre Dame, and then Florida's at home. But we saw like a depleted Florida roster last year nearly pulled off that upset against the Noles. That may be a beleaguered and beaten down Florida team that's competing for a fourth win on their schedule. I don't know, but I just tend to think the overall chance that Florida State drops 2, maybe 3 games is higher than I do Clemson.
I think that's fair. It's success for the Noles this year to me is really simple. Do you make it to the college football playoff or do you not? And I think it's going to come down to, did DJU's year away from the ACC out at Oregon State, did he remove himself from enough pressure to be able to come back to a pressure-packed environment and be able to succeed? Because, to be honest, his numbers weren't that different at Oregon State. He wasn't asked to do as much at Oregon State, so that's why he was more successful, and that's why on the field they won. They won more games and were more competitive than, and the offense looked more cohesive than it did when he was at Clemson. But he's going from very little pressure. I know everybody in Corvallis wants to win, but not at the level that they want to win in Tallahassee, especially after the taste that they got last year and being just on the doorstep. So that's what it's going to come down to me. Did you make a right evaluation in the portal? Because there were other portal quarterbacks out there as well.
There were.
That you could have gotten Riley Leonard from Duke. You could have really pushed for him maybe. And obviously I don't know if he was even interested in Florida State, but Riley Leonard at Duke, you could have gone and gotten, a plethora of guys, but you hitched your wagon to DJU this year. And that's what it's going to come down to. If he's successful, Florida State will be successful, and they will sneak into the college football playoff, either as the AACC champ or in one of the last at larges, competing with maybe a second Big 12 team. So that's success for me. Did you get in or did you not? And it doesn't really matter how it looks. It's not a beauty contest at this point. Just did you get in? And if you did, it's successful. If you didn't, try again next year in a depleted ACC.
I think that's very fair. I feel like I think that's a very realistic expectation for Florida State. And I know, listen, the adversity that you went through last year, like that has to be one of the most bitter tastes that you could possibly have left in your mouth after the way that Jordan Travis goes down and the committee just shafts you, right? I don't think that the pain from last year should be lumped on this team as undue expectation, right? You get to the ACC championship game, awesome. You've got a chance to go lock down a playoff spot and maybe, if not, sneak in as one of those final at-large bids. But Florida State, no doubt, is a team on the rise. I think overall, in the trajectory of college football, progress isn't linear. We know this. Honestly, if they struggle a little bit this year, I sold my Noles coin last year at record profits. Give me a buying opportunity, man. Give me a chance. If they lose a game that they shouldn't, and folks are discounting Noles coin, I will happily buy back in for my boy Mike Norvell.
Yeah, and I think he's earned that benefit of the doubt with the way that he has really just resurrected that program and put them in this position where a playoff berth is successful, because they were down bad when he was there. They were down bad his first year there. And the way that he was given time and just resurrected that program is really admirable. But I'm questioning hitching his wagon to DJU. I really am. I'm interested to see how that plays out. And I know that he has a whole team around him, and there's a lot of talent on defense. There's a lot of receiver talent. But they lost a lot of guys last year that really were the backbone of resurrecting that program. And it feels like if they would have made the playoff last year, we'd be talking about, okay, that was the high point, right? Yeah. And they're going to take a step back this year, but they're going to rebuild and try to build back to that height that they got last year. Feels like we almost are giving them less chance of taking a step back because they were left out of the playoff last year. Feels like an unfinished arc, and I think that's why we're maybe a little bit higher on Florida State than we maybe should be. But to be fair, I do think that success is making the playoff for a program of that caliber, and hitching your wagon to DJU is a really interesting way to make that happen. I'm fascinated. Like, I'm not saying that he's not going to be successful. I'm not saying he's going to be a Heisman candidate. I have no idea, and that's what's so fascinating to me.
It's a great storyline. It's one of the best storylines in college football.
How much of a redemption arc would that be if he comes back to the conference that he just could not cut it in and tears it up? That would be fantastic.
That would be tremendous to watch. And I think there's enough supporting cast specifically on offense where Florida State could make that happen.
Gracious him! How about